Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to some more Higurashi. We're in the final arc now, starting chapter 3. We've followed Takano and basically done nothing but her backstory. I'm curious how many chapters will be her backstory, and what her justification will be for this. It seems like becoming a god is her primary motive. See if we'll see if she has an actual motive. She's just hot. That's why you like her? She's just hot? Well, okay. He's pretty evil, but that's fine. Allow me to introduce you. This is Major Takano. Major, this is Dr. Kyosuke. Eri. Oh, it's Eri. Okay, nice. Hello. I'm Eri. Eri seemed extremely nervous at our first meeting. He probably thought I was in charge of some suspicious organization. But you are? Please relax. Call me Takano. Thank you. Thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it. Please have a seat. We stare at an ashtray for 5 minutes. Okay. That is definitely an ashtray with, like, flowers in it, right? A model, lower-class citizen, was a good way to describe Kyosuke Iri's demeanor. One could say he was the stereotypical type of person to get conveniently discarded after those crafty elders used their seniority to constantly pick on him. He certainly doesn't seem as cunning as I am, and he certainly doesn't have the cunning to acknowledge or even recognize the threat posed by Takano. But that doesn't mean he isn't ambitious. Like me, he's a young person who dreams of accomplishing something great and leaving his name on generations to come. While he acts humble in person like this, his articles were actually progressive as well as aggressive. The gap between the two was quite intense. I've read the data concerning the Tsunamizawa syndrome. Oh, what did you think? Well, it's quite a shock. It's very possible this is something that steps onto the dark side of today's medicine. I can hardly control my intellectual excitement in knowing there's the mystery that's yet to be solved. Hearing that made me chuckle. He's more than interested in the syndrome, which is good enough for me. She'd been through the ringer with far too many people to reach this day, so her honed instinct and intuition could tell she'd get along well with this man. Even if he isn't useful to me, he won't cause any problems. For both me and my sponsor, he's the best person possible for the job. I was shocked, too, to imagine a man of your experience and knowledge was just wasting away in the medical office without any responsibilities or work. I have to say, it was a grave loss to the medical field. Erie laughed. Bit uncomfortable, I'd imagine. He probably thought I didn't know, but I'd received detailed documents on him. So I knew why he was exiled from the limelight despite his rare talent and achievements. Oh? He displayed extraordinary skill working under a neurosurgery expert, and everyone expected a bright future from him, but he was kicked out due to an ethical controversy. Okay. Interesting. Erie's pet theory was that the antisocial behavior of individuals could be explained by brain disorders. He believed no one in the world was born a villain and that they were all poor patients in need of treatment, and he proposed they were all proper and normal when born, yet as they matured, psychogenesis and various exogenous factors caused brain disorders, making them into villains. Therefore, what the evil people need isn't punishment, but treatment, and if their diseases are treated, they'll become good citizens again. That manner of thinking fell in line with the Confucian belief of innate human goodness. According to this theory, humans are born with the capacity for altruism, and it's only afterward they learn and acquire cruelty. He believed that acquisition was the result of brain disorders, and I believe people are just colossal assholes. The human brain creates human thoughts, and therefore if one becomes emotionally ill, it means their brain is ill, so if their brain gets treatment, they recover emotionally too. That follows, okay. The field's called psychosurgery, and it's fallen out of practice in the current Heisei era, but the surgical techniques were applauded until mid-Showa. Fair enough. Especially since it produced spectacular results on a chronic mental patient said to be incurable. The man who invented it even won a Nobel Prize. Ah yes, psychosurgery. If I recall correctly, let me double check. Was that the guy who got the prize for inventing the lobotomy? Yeah, he got it in 1949. Let's see. Blah, 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 blah. Let's see. I'm reading the Wikipedia article now. I just looked it up. The practice was taken up enthusiastically in the United States by neuropsychiatrist Walter Freeman and neurosurgeon James Watts, who devised what became the standard prefrontal procedure and named their operative technique lobotomy, called leucotomy in the United Kingdom, and it was awarded. There was a Nobel Prize awarded to Monitz in it for it. Interesting. Okay, cool. I believe that was. Yeah. So the guy who invented it, Portuguese neurologist Egas Moniz, got a Nobel Prize for that. I could have sworn Watts got one too. I could have sworn at some point he got one. Maybe I'm wrong? Huh. Ah, okay, sorry, my bad. Let's see. From the Nobel Prize's website, the Portuguese neurologist Egas Moniz introduced the surgical operation prefrontal leucotomy. After an initial period, it became to be used. Blah blah. Blah, yeah, that's why he got it. Okay. Yeah. So the guy who invented lobotomy got a Nobel Prize, and that's what they're talking about. So in case you're like, well, that sounds reasonable. Why isn't it a thing anymore? No, it's literally lobotomies. I was right. Spectacular results, aka you lobotomized someone. That's how revolutionary it was. I knew psychosurgery was lobotomies. I was like 90% certain. Humans think, that's why they become ill. So if you're like, why is Erie's process maybe a little questionable? He believes in lobotomies. He believes in lobotomies, and it's the 80s. Like, it's like that's not a cool thing anymore, and you probably don't believe in them anymore either. And that's why those who overthink matters are prone to mental illness. People think, therefore they become ill. When the organ that thinks and debates grows ill, humans deviate from social behavior. That part's the frontal lobe. Here we go. Put simply, psychosurgery is surgery performed to operate on the frontal lobe. This kind of surgery doesn't require removing the whole epicranium. A small hole is drilled through the cranium and a special scalpel is inserted down to cut it. It's not a major surgery, just a technique for quickly operating on the precocious... Is it precious? It's precious, right? It's not precocious, it's precious. Frontal lobe. Indeed, it was revolutionary in its simplicity. All the severely ill mental patients miraculously recovered, so the technique spread around the world quickly. Those with obstinate and chronic mental illnesses, the severely ill trapped in deep, inescapable depression, all those could be saved by this technique. Throughout history, humans came up with many different religions and magical tricks to heal emotional injuries. So needless to say, the idea of being able to treat them with a surgical technique was truly revolutionary. Erie admired psychosurgery and pushed forward in the field of surgical techniques to treat human souls. However, from the modern human rights standpoint, severing a portion of someone's brain simply because they're emotionally disturbed is absolutely out of the question. People gradually started to think differently and said psychosurgery was inhumane. The frontal lobe controls how people think, but it's also the part that makes people act human. There were quite a few cases where that cut caused drastic, irreversible changes in the patient. A baseless happiness born from a lack of thought, a change in personality, a loss of interest in everything, major mood swings due to a lack of control over one's emotions. Some even lost parts of their memories. Of course, some didn't survive the surgery. By the mid-1960s, use of psychosurgery declined, and due to the development of psychotropic medicine, the surgery was hardly performed anymore anyway. Yet some people still believed in the idea and continued to perform the surgery, gathering clinical data. They wanted people to recognize the value of the technique again. So was Dr. Erie performing lobotomies on people? Some of these surgeries were performed without consent. Start sweating. Oh boy. One theory is that in Japan alone there were thousands of people who woke up from general anesthesia, only to find that part of their brain had been removed. Today, to perform a surgery without a patient's consent is considered unethical, but it was different at the time. For one thing, the idea doctors required patient consent was proliferated in the modern Heisei era. Therefore, people at the time didn't think it was that big of an issue. It was only later people started to argue it was inhumane. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? You go down to your good old doctor. You're like, man, I got this toothache. And they're like, yeah, I'll fix your toothache right up real good. And you wake up with a fucking lobotomy. What do you think? A little bit unreasonable? A little bit. Finally, a decision was reached and the curtain closed with the rejection of psychosurgery. Later, the Japanese Society of Psychology and Neurology passed their resolution to end psychosurgery. After that, it was banned throughout Japan and made a forbidden subject of Japanese medicine. Irie was the leading person in the field of psychosurgery. He continued to advocate its effectiveness and results. Man, suddenly, Irie is not such a great doctor after all, is he? Therefore, he was treated as a war criminal who practiced inhumane medicine and exiled from the public eye. However, that doesn't mean he changed his beliefs. He still believes that immoral behavior is caused by brain disorders, and the secret of treating them is in fact hidden in the brain. Maybe we should give him a lobotomy so he knows what it's like. That would probably make sense. So the existence of the Hinamizawa syndrome caused by parasites in the brain that control human emotions affirms his theory. Yeah, psychosurgery is 500% bullshit. Yep. Psychosurgery. It's like, oh man, this person's acting up. How do we stop them from acting up? Well, we could blow their brains out. Oh, that's a great solution. Well, they're not acting out anymore. It's like, you know, it's the why not just kill someone? Why not just kill someone if they're bothering you? That seems like a reasonable solution. You're like, oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, if it's alright with you, I'd love to accept this position. Of course. Given Irie's history, he would never turn down this offer. Despite his mild-mannered appearance, he was possessed by a mighty ambition. There's no way he didn't desire a chance to complete research that would prove himself to the medical society that ostracized him. I'm handing him the chance on a silver platter. Thank you very much. I knew you'd accept. We're very lucky to have an expert like you. You'd be a great help. Are you okay with me being director? Wouldn't it be better for you to hold that position, Takano? I'm just a simple doctor. Being in charge of other people is... Oh, don't worry. I'll give you my full support. Our sponsor wanted to pick a civilian. Besides, wouldn't you like to be called Director Irie? Well, but... Irie laughed to hide his embarrassment. We're building a research center in Hinamizawa. Publicly, it will be a clinic. So with your consent, Dr. Irie, we'd like to call it the Irie Clinic. Lord of my own castle. That's more than I deserve. You'll be placed under the SDF, so you'll be registered as a medical officer with them. Since you'll be my superior, you'll be a Lieutenant Colonel. Lieutenant Colonel Irie, how's that sound to you? I'm not a military man. I'd rather refrain from being called Lieutenant Colonel. Director's already frightening as is. Oh my. He's getting a chance to research brain parasites and given the title of director of a new clinic as camouflage. Comes with staff and funding. He'll even have support from the Defense Agency and the Ministry of Health and Welfare, as well as a research lab with state-of-the-art equipment. No wonder he's laughing so excitedly. Yeah, you wanna start a practice doing medical research now? Mr. Disgraced Doctor? Yes, I'd love to. You'd like state-of-the-art equipment? Yes. Directly funded by the government? Yes. Top of the list for priorities? That sounds amazing. Sign me the fuck up. Alright. However, there are some risks too. Since he'll be involved in this research, he has an obligation to keep it a secret. He's also going to an area plagued by a mysterious and bizarre disease. There's no guarantee he won't contract it himself, but Irie is too young to even think about those things. Aware of all the risks, he quickly signed the contract with the ambition to have people recognize his talent once more. When I saw him sign the contract, I finally relaxed. I knew he'd agree to join us, but at the same time I was afraid of the chance he'd refuse. Selecting a director proved more difficult than expected, and the only candidate that Takano paired with was Irie. So if Irie refused, then frankly she'd be placed in an even worse situation. Now that Irie agreed to take the position, research on the syndrome could finally begin. Okay. The center, or rather the clinic, will be completed next spring. The Ministry of Health and Welfare and the Defense Agency will send the best equipment and staff, as well as an abundant supply of funds. Then finally, our research will begin in earnest. Everything's going well. Of course it is. I've put so much effort into making sure things went smoothly up to this point. Congratulations, Director Erie. Major, the contract's been signed. Thank you. I look forward to working with you, Director Erie. I look forward to working with you too, Takano. I hope we can get along. I'll be devoting my best efforts to this. No, thank you. Let's both give our best. Now the position of director's been filled, everything's set. Yeah, I swear that should be a huge red flag, right? Would anyone else see that as a huge red flag if the person recruiting you for your role had more credentials than you and was recruiting you to be their superior? Wouldn't that be a huge red flag? Like, something fishy's going on? It's like, okay, so you have more experience than me, you're well known and well regarded in the medical field, but you want me to be director? Why is this? And she's like, well, don't you want to be director? And he's like, oh yeah, I guess so. It's got to be a huge red flag somewhere. Great, just great. Congratulations, Takano. No, Major Takano, isn't it? It was all possible thanks to your assistance. I must give my thanks to all of you. Oh, don't mention it. We should save our congratulations until you finish your research, right? You're only at the starting line. Exactly. Erie doesn't know that Takano runs Yamainu as a major secretly, though, right? I mean, she just told him in that line that he would outrank her, quote unquote, right? So he knows she's a major. Because he's being promoted to quote unquote lieutenant colonel in the army, right? He's being given a rank over her officially, so he's aware that she's a military. She's like military, and that she's a major, presumably. Because she's being given a rank above her. Theory must be dense then. Yeah. It's like super sus. But then again, as she said, he's ambitious and desperate and young to try. He's young, ambitious, and desperate to prove himself to the community that now doesn't believe anything, right? Like, it's super suspicious, though. Just to have someone he knows, just to have someone that, like, recruits you for the role that's directly above them is really suspicious. Theoretically, you know, when you're getting a job, if you're getting a job as, like, a director, of a director, then the person recruiting you should be outranking you, right? Because they need to approve and sign off on you. Why is the person below you signing off on you? Your hiring. That's like super sus. It's like if you're like, okay, I'm going to go work at like McDonald's or some shit, and instead of the manager signing off on you, one of the employees shows up, does your interview, and it's like, you'll be hired, and you're like, aren't you a manager? And you're like, no, I'm going to be your employee. And you're like, come again? That's a little weird. Like, I guess in the case of the McDonald's, you'd assume that they're like a son of the owner or something like that, right? That they have to have something that puts them above you in reality, right? But with a government project now, it's like really weird. It's like, what? Like, there are higher people in the government. Why are you here? I hardly wait to see the results of what Dr. Takano couldn't finish. Well, Sensei, let's not talk about business today. Let's have a toast to congratulate Takano and the Erie Institute. Hello, everyone. I'm Nagata from the Ministry of Health and Welfare. I'd like to say a few things before the toast. Takano, make sure he works hard, okay? His research center will be supporting the Institute. If you need any technical support, just call him. Make him work hard? Oh no, I have to thank you for your support. I'm Takano, pleased to meet you. Takano, let me introduce you to these gentlemen. Meet Tomatake-kun and Okonogi-kun from the Self-Defense Force. They are backup from the SDF. I'll let them introduce themselves. Nice to meet you, I'm Tomatake. I've been commanded to serve as auditor of this project. Looking forward to working with you. The funding for our research is coming from the SDF. So she kills him too? Okay. It's only natural for the SDF to assign a watchdog to make sure reasonable research is taking place. However, someone in a position like that should be my opponent. Why was someone in that position invited to this private party. Does that mean this auditor is on my side too? So the private party for the Shadow Organization features both Tomitake and Takano. Seeing that thorough groundwork, I couldn't help but feel the strength of having a sponsor all over again. I won't be staying in Hinamizawa. I'll only come by routinely to check on the progress. Oh, that's too bad. Hinamizawa is a beautiful place with clean air. Please visit us anytime, outside of work too. Thank you. I guess I will. If he really is an auditor, I should maintain a good relationship with this man. He'll hold the key to all future adjustments of our funding, so long as we continue drawing it from the SDF. I'm Okanogi. Nice to meet you. He's commanding officer of the Mountain Dogs, one of our unconventional warfare units. They'll be stationed in Hinamizawa to provide you direct support, Major. Should I consider you my bodyguards then? Their principal duty is guarding VIPs and preserving secrets. Think of them as your hands and feet and work them hard. Thank you. Tomitake seems to be an honest type for a military man, but this Okanogi person looks the complete opposite. His main job is preserving secrets, but I bet he's also good with espionage tactics like counterintelligence and information control. Yes, that would explain his demeanor. Since the SDF is funding our research on Hinamizawa syndrome, of course this is considered a military operation. Therefore, this research has to be done in secret. Feels weird to see Okanogi having green hair. Does he not have it in everything? I mean, he has it. Seems to have it in all of the pictures. Seems to have it in everything. Seems to have it in all three. Does he not have it in one of the animes, perhaps? Since he clearly has it in all three art styles. It's very reassuring to have someone capable of combat working under me. I should maintain a good relationship with him too. Okay, enough introductions. Come on, Tomitake, you can relax too. Let's put aside our ranks today and have a toast. So, why is Okanogi killing Tomitake here? It seems weird to have Okanogi kill Tomitake when, like, presumably as auditor, he outranks the major. Shouldn't grabbing and executing a superior officer be a thing you don't do in the military? Seems a bit weird, but okay. That's his job after all. Eri is simply a puppet to fill a seat. Yep. It's supposed to celebrate the establishment of his institute, but Eri isn't here because he's a puppet. I understand why Eri's not here. Of course, I expect him to help me with a little of his expertise, but he's ultimately an outsider. This is supposed to be a gathering where I would show my appreciation to those who helped me establish the institute, but it's turned into them thanking me for my efforts. I'm always the one to pour alcohol for others, but today people pour alcohol in my glass. The new participants are trying to make me happy, and all the top people talk to me casually. They all praise my hard work and my efforts. My research is now recognized by many institutions, and I'm ready to spread my wings open wide. All the people who are expecting some returns once the research accomplishes something are trying to curry favor with me. Right now, I'm just very grateful, regardless of their motives. Let's have a toast to those who wish the best of luck to Neo Takano, and also to the new Eri Institute. Alright, Sensei, lead the toast. Like a dream. I know, this is just the beginning. I shouldn't be satisfied with this alone, but for today, I can forget about everything and enjoy the celebration. I'm not a heavy drinker, but the drinks taste good tonight, and the more I drink, the happier I get. Oh, this really is wonderful. To be called Major by Tomitake and the others is wonderful too. That's the rank my grandfather had during the war. It means I've finally caught up with him. This is only the beginning. From here on, I intend to reach what my grandfather could not. It's the best night of my life. I ended up leaving to fix my makeup. I'm filled with elation. I need to feel fresh air to calm myself down. My heart's about to explode because I'm so happy. The gathering takes place a short distance from the main building. The rest room is in the main building, so I need to walk across the hallway. In the rain, that sucks. A beautiful and well-maintained Japanese garden is visible from the hallway. Oh, maybe she's just walking left to right and can see through this door? This doorway? It's raining. I usually don't like rain, but I don't mind it at all today. I even feel the raindrops are congratulating me. It's like a round of applause, right? If you think about it, rain sounds like a continuous round of applause. I can totally see where she's coming from there. Cool air feels pleasant on my hot skin. And it took me a moment to notice how unsteady my footsteps had become. Maybe I drank a little too much. It isn't like me to drink more than I can handle. Although this is a party, I don't want to embarrass myself, so I decided to cool off a little by looking at the beautiful Japanese garden. I found an elegant chair set on red carpet nearby and sat down on it. Since I was with the associates until now, I was forced to constantly be on guard against embarrassing myself, but now that I was alone, I could let go and truly relax. When I look up to the sky, I realize it's raining hard, but in the distance, the horizon is a little lighter. Maybe it won't be raining for much longer. Well, that's normal. Rain stops eventually. No matter how cold it is or how hard it's raining, rain stops eventually. I saw a pair of sandals and an umbrella, almost inviting me. Tempting to go outside, you took them into the garden. The tasteless laughter from the party sounds so far away, and I tilted the umbrella, looking up to the sky. I felt the raindrops hit my face and gazed at the sky for a little while, forgetting all about my hair getting wet. So much for that umbrella being a shelter from the rain. I thought the rain would cool down my boiling heart, but as my body got cold, I started to feel miserable. My bare feet were swollen, and the throbbing pain I felt made them seem twice their normal size. I feel like your shoes are too small for you. The gravel road continued forever. I don't even know what direction I was headed in anymore. Actually, she said sandals, right? Blah, 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 blah. Let's see. Yeah, sandals. I didn't know what direction I was headed in anymore. I could no longer hear my pursuer. Oh, I think we cut. I'm betting we cut to her memories here. I was like, what the fuck? She's wearing sandals. Why is she suddenly in pain? I think this is her memory now. I'd probably lost him by running through the woods like mad. My body was covered in scratches. I finally started to feel the pain from that. Let me know if the rain is too loud. The rain in this game is typically really loud. I felt both cold and hungry. There was no place nearby to take shelter from the rain. I was just on a little path in the woods. My worst fear was that I would end up heading back towards the orphanage after bolting and losing my sense of direction. I'd crushed the man's finger. I didn't think I bit it off, but I was sure it would leave a scar. Taking that into consideration, it was clear to me what kind of torture awaited me back at the orphanage. You're probably going to lose all your fingers. That sounds like fun. Therefore, I had to reach the house of love and mercy. If only it had been daytime, then I could have easily found the right way to go, but with this rain, there was nothing I could do. But I couldn't stop. I had to keep walking until I reached something. I wondered if Eriko and the others escaped safely. I didn't know how many people came after us, but at least one came after me. In other words, it meant they had a better chance. Did they reach the house? Were they drying themselves with soft towels? If they still remembered me, would they save a towel for me too? I felt cold. So very cold. I wanted to find shelter and sit down, but there was nothing of the sort. I saw a tree that looked like I could take shelter under it, but the branches and leaves were dripping with water. Yeah, in my experience, it's not a lot of shelter sitting under a tree. It was then I realized the sky was getting darker. Would this day end in rain? There were no streetlights where I was. Soon enough, it would be totally dark. I wouldn't be able to walk any further then. I just wanted to sit down even if it was raining. But if I did sit down, I wouldn't be able to stand up again. So I endured. If I hadn't escaped with Eriko and the others, I wouldn't have had to go through such misery. But compared to what I had to go through at the orphanage, this was nothing. Thinking about that was the only way to make myself move. Yeah, think of what's ahead. Think of escaping the orphanage and keep going. But when I thought about that... It's true that this freezing cold rain is better than my life at the orphanage. But that was only when compared to the life at the orphanage. Was it better than the normal lives of normal kids my age? Probably. I didn't even need to think about that one. When my parents were alive, although we weren't rich, we led a normal life. The gentle smiles and forgivable selfishness, the sound of my mother cooking breakfast in the morning, the sound of a newspaper being folded, precious memories like that. I didn't need anything else. I had plenty of friends, I had fun at school. I didn't like my teacher, but I liked studying. Wow, she likes studying. Oof. You can see how she's a monster, right? I had everything I needed. That was enough for me. I never complained. I never did anything bad, so why was this happening to me? Bad luck, I guess. Everything went downhill after that train incident. The die of fate kept rolling a 1. Oh boy, we're back to rolling dice. The die never showed its good side to me. If the accident was my fault, well, then I could have accepted it. But it wasn't. It was completely unrelated to you. You had no way of knowing it would even happen. Let alone that it was happening. Bit unfortunate, yeah? I wasn't even there. I mean, you don't have to be present for it to be your fault, but, you know. I waited for my parents at home. I liked going to the mall with them. We always had a meal at the restaurant in the mall. I always told them to let me know if they're going to the mall, but on that day they went without me while I went to my friend's house to play. My friend wasn't in, so I went back home. I didn't see anyone at home and saw a note that said they were going to the mall. I regretted going to my friend's house. I waited at home. They didn't come home. They were still gone by dinner. I was getting hungry and got angry with my parents for leaving me. I thought they were having dinner at the mall restaurant without me. If I hadn't gone to my friend's house, I had to be eating dinner at the restaurant too. I loved the little flags that came with the kids' meals. I was collecting those. Oh, she likes those silly flag things. Okay. I don't think I've seen them give those out any time in the last 10 years. But I also haven't had any kids' meals in the last 10 years, so how would I know? Yeah, I was trying to collect 20 of them, thinking that once I collected 20, something wonderful would happen. Why 20? I couldn't collect 20 of them. I only needed one more. If I had one more, maybe the accident wouldn't have happened. A sad memory of a flag from a kid's meal. I kept waiting for my parents to come home from the mall. I was hungry, so I started eating some dried fish. If I ate too much, my mother would find out, so I was careful not to gorge myself. And then the phone rang. I assumed it was my parents. I answered the phone in an angry manner, but it wasn't them at all.
Hello there.
It wasn't them at all. Hello there. It was General Kenobi. Oh boy. General Kenobi, bearer of bad news to Takano. I mean, to be fair, his ability to deliver bad news isn't exactly stellar. And his management of people who are a little bit on edge didn't work. Doesn't exactly work out that well. As we can see from a certain Darth Vader. Perhaps Obi-Wan Kenobi telling her parents died started her on this trail. What happened to the house? We had rented it, so maybe someone else had already moved in. What happened to my room? Well, what about my desk? All the flags right in the middle drawer? If it wasn't my house anymore, then where was I supposed to go? Even if it remains my house. Alright, good night. Even if it remained my house, my parents wouldn't be there to welcome me or protect me. Just because I didn't have my parents to protect me, the whole world became so cruel. How could anyone take me away from the house I was used to living in just because my parents were gone? Why didn't they just leave me alone? They asked me many things. They tried to confirm many things. But how could I have understood any of the forms they gave me? I was asked a yes or no question, and I had no choice but to answer yes. Before I knew it, I ended up at the orphanage. It was beyond heartless. I didn't do anything wrong. I was just a little girl. I had to sign so many papers, but why this? The warm and gentle world ended suddenly without advance notice, and I was thrown into the cruel and merciless world alone. Was this the real world? Did I have any allies at all? Just because my parents died and I didn't have relatives, the world had become so sad? When will this die come up with a 6 instead of a 1 to make up for the continuous series of the letter? Poor Takano, indeed. Damn, she's getting, she's had a rough couple years at this orphanage. Tears were pouring down my cheeks. The salty taste further saddened and irritated me. I couldn't do anything but cry, but no matter how hard I cried or pitied myself, the cold rain wouldn't warm me or save me. I didn't even know where I was or which direction I should go. What month is it in this escape attempt? She's in Japan, right? Like, she's in Japan. It's a relatively warm place. She'll be okay. Although, just rain can make you cold, so it is what it is. Noriko showed me the map to the House of Love and Mercy when we were planning our escape. We only learned the shortest route. I was completely lost, but strangely, after I finished crying, I felt a groundless strength within myself. I once learned that tears wash away particles in the eyes, but there's a different purpose to them too. Tears also wash away what's in the heart. Okay. I clenched my fist and forced my feet to move. I headed in the direction I believed to be correct on the gravel road. The rain was still pouring, and it was getting darker and darker. This is where it turns out like that the place you live is like a military compound and all your friends got shot or something. We need to turn up the grim dark. I roared at the sky amidst the rain. My sadness was turning into anger. Stupid God. Why? What have I done to deserve this? What did I do? I didn't do anything. I was just living a normal life, that's all. So why this? My daddy told me there are good things and bad things in life, but neither last long. That means this won't last long either, right? I won't be alone in this place forever, right? Right? As I looked up, I felt the raindrops hit my face. There is no God. I knew that in my heart. But such disbelief wouldn't save me. If I believed he was there, I should have been saved. I needed him to be there. Was he going to answer me? I heard thunder, and then I realized he was there. He was there and listening to me. In his eyes, everyone is supposed to be equal, and he was listening to me. Wow, you got some superstitious behavior, but it's alright, dude. I've gone through enough, more than enough. I was too happy before. I could take this misery. I wasn't. I was living a normal life. If you ask me, I was happy then. Sure. Is this what I get in return? It's not fair at all. I heard thunder again. He was listening, and I continued. If this fate of mine was your mistake, then let me be free. End my misery, let me be happy again. But if this is in fact my fate, I'm supposed to live this way until the end. I don't want it. Kill me. Kill me with your lightning. Finish me off now. Come on. Kill me ruthlessly, right here and now. Imagine if Takano's parents hadn't died, would Hinamizawa face the same fate? I mean, maybe her parents are fated to die. Maybe someone actually wanted to kill her, since in every single route Takano shows up. There's no route where Takano is not present. Or maybe someone else would take her place. Maybe her uncle would adopt someone else who would also carry the mantle and also set up this clinic. Seems unusual, but we'll see. I heard thunder again. It was loud enough to make me shiver. Normally I'd just hide in the house and wait until the thunder went away, but on that day, I wasn't afraid. Come on, kill me! Yoko Hanashi is right here. Just like you killed my parents, take me too! The heavens replied to my provocation. They took aim at me, a lowly human who dared sling constant insolent insults at them. That was my wish. I opened my arms. He's God. He wouldn't miss. However, I guess even God makes mistakes. Although he's supposed to be fair, he's been unfair with me. Come on, kill me! Take me to heaven. If you fail to kill me, try turning my destiny around. A timeline with no Irie or Takano? A good life? A good life, you say? Pitiful child. A flash from heaven. I thought I smelled something burning just before it hit. The sheer force knocked me to the ground. It was a strange experience. It was something that just happened, but it already felt like it happened many years ago. I had no idea how long I was down for. I smelled something odd. The bad stench woke me up, and when I looked, I saw a huge tree behind me had been split open and its leaves were smoldering. I looked up and saw sparks in the darkness. A lightning strike actually landed near her. That's crazy. I couldn't understand what happened. I just stood there. The thunderbolt struck, but it didn't hit me. It struck the tree behind me. I didn't die. He was telling me to keep walking in the cold rain. You've returned to numb me. I see. Appreciate it. And appreciate your return as well. I won my bet with God. I bet my life. I bet against the lightning and thunder. It could have killed me instantly, but he missed. So he had to fix my life, right? I looked up at the sky, laughing and bragging. I was still like, ooh, very nice. Seems like Takano or Tomotage might be destined to come here every year, or to come to Himenamizawa, since they've never not been present. Or perhaps that is too far in the past for it to be something Rika can shift. I heard thunder again and was acknowledging its loss. Come on, God. Save me. I won the bet! Save me from this misery. Oh, she has a sprite. That's cool. Original doesn't get shit. Console and remake get the same sprite. Interesting. I stood there. I waited for God to do something while the rain poured on me, but he didn't answer me again. I couldn't hear the thunder anymore, and again I felt warm tears pour down my cheeks. He ran into the early gimmick of the Summer 5 Challenge Quest first. Ooh. Ooh, that's a bad way to go. What was I thinking? If there was a God in heaven, he wouldn't have let anything like this happen to me. My miserable life was proof of God's non-existence. The darkness was about to swallow me utterly. Would I have to sleep out there? God must have wanted me to die slowly in this cold rain instead of granting me an instant death by lightning. Why don't you just keep walking? I wish the sun would go away. I wish the sun would never rise. I wish that as the woods had grown dark, my existence could be hidden by the darkness. Ooh, face first into both of those? Yeah, that's gotta be painful. Was that a wipe? It's gotta be a wipe, right? Face first, running into both of those gimmicks? Ooh. Had it been an eternity, or was it a matter of seconds? I couldn't even tell time in such darkness. It was then I saw something. It was a light. I noticed it because the woods were dark, but was it really there? Had it been there this whole time? Yeah, the second one was a wipe, yeah. I felt like the light was inviting me towards it. It was a fluorescent light. I didn't normally like fluorescents because I thought they looked cold, but I didn't feel coldness from that white light. I made myself believe the light was a guide sent by God. I had to believe, otherwise I wouldn't be saved. This is where it turns out she's gone in a circle and it's just the base. It's just the camp she lives at. The light reflected in a puddle. It wasn't a muddy puddle. It was a puddle on asphalt. I'd made it out of the woods and on to a paved road. The light was a street light. Being on a paved road didn't resolve anything. It was just a country road. Hey, some country roads aren't paved, man. It was a road that went through the woods, so there were no houses, no shops, and not even a single car going by. There weren't too many streetlights on the road, so it was very, very dark. My feet touched the asphalt. It felt so different from the gravel I'd been walking on, it felt almost merciful. Yeah, walking on asphalt's way better than walking on gravel. Unless it's like absurdly hot. My feet had grown used to walking on gravel, but after feeling the softness of asphalt, I never wanted to go back to the former again. I could only choose between left and right. Will the country roads take you home? She's hoping that they do not take her home. Home is a bad, bad place. I was grateful to God for leading me to this asphalt road, but I wished he'd given me more guidance. Such a bit of luck couldn't make up for all the unhappiness I'd gone through. And that was when I sensed his guidance. I saw another light in the distance, on the right side, and I headed towards it. And when I got there, I understood what it was. I was amazed to find it here. A telephone booth. Who would actually make a call in the middle of nowhere? A booth in the countryside was rather unusual. There were plenty of red public phones all over. I always thought telephone booths only existed in big cities, though. It almost looked as though the booth had been put there as punishment for doing something bad. When I thought that, I felt bad for the lonely telephone booth. It reminded me of myself. Even if I went inside the booth, what would I do in there? I already knew the answer, but no matter what, I had to get in there. The door squeaked as I opened it. There were moths and other bugs flittering around the light. I usually hated bugs, but in that moment I felt they were my friends, sheltering from the rain like me. Telephone booths, I know, right? They practically don't exist anymore. But this is like the 60s right now. I think the setting is around the 60s, 70s maybe. So, this is pretty old. There was no heater, but it was still warm inside the booth. It sheltered me from the rain, and soon enough I crumbled to the floor. The warmth from the light embraced me gently, and it felt like it was telling me it was okay to cry. But I had no more tears left. I cried them all when the lightning struck. Aching scratches covered my body. My calves were in pain. Everything hurt everywhere, and I didn't want to get up ever again. I wished I could fall asleep, but if I did that, the staff might find me. The windows were high up, so if I sat down, I wouldn't be visible from the outside, but as it was the only shelter in these dark woods, the staff would be sure to check it. That's why I couldn't stay for long. And then in brackets it tells me, telephone booths from back then weren't completely made of glass, so it was possible to hide inside one. Okay, so it wasn't just the image they drew. If you notice, in the image they drew, instead of being glass panels on the right, there's actually, like, at the waist height, there is darkness. There is, like, something covering where the panels should be. My exhausted spirit understood I had to move, but I just couldn't make myself. Maybe I was experiencing a vision? An EU gateway will seem Google. Yeah, so I hear. You guys are going to be able to play Grand Order legitimately soon. Isn't that exciting? Saves you a couple extra steps. Get some auto updates rolling. I felt a strange calmness I'd never experienced before. I didn't feel I was myself. It was very strange. I thought maybe I was killed by the lightning. I'd assumed I was still Miyoko Tanashi, but perhaps I wasn't her at all. I seriously considered those things. And then I started to think that the booth had something to do with it. As God led me here, he couldn't have done so just because it was providing shelter from the rain. There had to be something else. I wondered what it was. Could there be something in the booth that would save me? But what? A booth is used to make a phone call. I didn't have any money. But then I noticed something that looked like copper. My heart skipped a beat. The 10-yen coin I saw wasn't there before. Did I just miss it, perhaps? I didn't think so. It must have just showed up. In other words, this 10-yen coin was guidance from God. Oh God, she's starting out as a religious fanatic. This is never a good way. This is an easy way to get to a villain. Alright, he was telling me to make a call with that coin, but to who? To whom? There was no telephone book. In that case, I could only call a number I knew. Did God want me to do that? There was only one coin. I could only call one number. And I couldn't talk for long. I challenged God earlier, so it was a matter of course I think he was challenging me in return. I only had one chance, and he wanted me to test my luck with that chance. Well, I left the booth and looked at the sky, and then I yelled in my heart, "You're on!" I wondered who I could call. My house? My parents were dead, I had no relatives. Even if I called, nobody would answer. Actually, the phone bill wouldn't have been paid for a long time, so the phone would be disconnected. My house was my lost life itself. The debris of my life. Calling home would simply be an expression of regret, which ran counter to the positive attitude of one trying to change their life. Fair enough. Surely using the coin to call my house is wrong. There's no world in which that would be useful, you're correct. Which meant I had to cast this 10-yen coin towards my future. Future. My future? What future, anyway? And then I heard a huge thunderclap which cleared my mind. In that clear state of mind, I saw something from the past. It was the last sight of my father, his final moments on the hospital bed. Though suffering from pain, he tried to tell me something important. If by chance I am to die, turn to Dr. Takano, Dr. Hifumi Takano. Say it for me. Hifumi Takano. That's right. Dr. Hifumi Takano. He's my former teacher. He'll help you. Daddy, Daddy. And then that became. Many doctors came into the room in a hurry. He wanted to tell me something else, but the doctors stopped him from talking, so it wasn't audible. It shouldn't have been, but it was to me. I heard it. But I didn't want to hear him say it while suffering, so I pretended I didn't. He said it while coughing, and I heard it. They were numbers. I swallowed once. Oh my god. Can you imagine trying to remember a phone number from like 2 years ago that you heard once? Oh god. That's right, it was a phone number. He knew nobody would take me in because we had no relatives. He told me to get in touch with him, Dr. Hifumi Takano. He tried telling me his phone number. What had I done? He tried so hard, using his last chance to tell me the most important thing. The thunder from earlier made me remember it. The number I couldn't even remember once came out so smoothly. I dialed it in. This really was it. The number for my father's teacher, Dr. Takano. But my hand stopped as I tried to put the coin in. What if I didn't remember correctly? Maintenance? That's funny because we specifically talked about maintenance coming up earlier. We specifically said, yeah, there's going to be maintenance for the Uku event coming. And exactly when it was going to be, which would be right now. Ooh. Well, there was no need to hesitate. I had to believe in myself. This had to be the correct number. I had to dial it in before I forgot it again. I picked up the phone and put the coin in. I heard the dial tone on the other end. At that point, I decided to kill myself if it didn't work. I could go back into the woods and wait for another lightning bolt. What are the odds you get hit by lightning? What are the honest odds you get hit by lightning in a forest? They can't be that high. I could fall asleep in the middle of the road and wait for a car to run me over. I made up my mind and put the coin in. I didn't hesitate any longer. I dialed the number at once, but I had to be careful. If you dial quickly, sometimes you can make mistakes. I was getting irritated, and it almost made the phone number go vague in my mind. Man, I fucking hate rotary dials. Ugh. I dialed the last digit and heard some electronic sounds on the other end. I hoped I dialed it correctly. I didn't know what to say to Takano if it did connect. Where was I? What was I supposed to do? What are the odds that your parents... Okay, what are the odds that one of your teachers from college would be willing to take your child in if they died? What was I supposed to ask him? I didn't know any of those things. Making a call is not cheap. 1 10 yen coin would buy me a short time to talk. The line must have connected then. I heard a ringtone. I only had a short time when someone answered. I thought for a moment I should put the phone down. Then I could at least get the coin back. I could call back after sorting out my thoughts. But then someone answered. Hello? This is the Takano residence. I felt like I was suffocating. Okay, so you have like, what, 30 seconds? 1 minute to tell someone everything you need to know. You don't know where you are. You don't know where you are. You don't know who they are. And you don't know how you're going to convince them to help you. This is tough. My memory had been correct. I couldn't tell the age of the speaker, but it was a grown man's voice. Anyone who's my father's teacher would have been quite old. Oh, never mind that. Your college teachers would probably kill all of the kids, taking their social skills into consideration. Ooh. Never mind. I had to hurry and say something. Hurry. Are you Dr. Takano? Dr. Hifumi Takano? Hmm? Yes, who's this? He must have been suspicious. I couldn't blame him. A stranger was asking him about his name. Of course he'd be suspicious. I'm sorry. I'm Tanashi. Miyoko Tanashi. Tanashi-san? Yes. My father told me to get in touch with you. His name's Takemitsu Tanashi? Tanashi. Ah, Tanashi-kun. I remember him. His voice suddenly changed. Dr. Takano had remembered his old student. I'm his daughter. He told me to call you. Did something happen to Tanashi? Not good. I was gonna run out of time. My parents died in a train accident. I was told to call you. Tanashi is dead? I see. Both of them? Sorry to hear that. I knew him from when I was teaching at a college. He was a very hardworking young man. I think the last time I saw him was at the wedding. Oh, he was at his parents' wedding. That makes more sense. Obviously he didn't know I was born. But he remembered my father. It was truly a stroke of luck. So, what did Tanashi want to tell me? I didn't know what to say. I was only told to call him. How could I tell him that? My time was running out. I felt more and more anxious by the minute. Phone calls are disconnected without notice. Somehow I sensed it. I only had enough time for one sentence, so I decided to say one sentence filled with all my hopes. Help me! The phone call got disconnected. Maybe he only heard part of what I said. I could only hope he was able to sense my despair. I couldn't hear anything from the receiver anymore. But I actually talked to him. I confirmed Takano existed. He existed and he remembered my father. If he grieved over his student's death, he'd come visit my house. And he'd find out I was sent to an orphanage. He'd come get me. That's when tears flowed down my cheeks again. I thought my life was hopeless. I never knew finding even a grain of hope would make me feel so happy and strong. The voice I heard on the phone was warm and dependable. My father must have thought about me for a long time in that hospital bed. Sad and glad about the EU gateway? What, were you expecting a new server? I mean, like, I don't think a new server in this day and age would have even made sense. It's so far behind. You'd unironically be 7 years behind. And you're already playing on something that's like 2 years behind. Do you predict you're going to be playing the same game in 10 years? In like 8+ years? That seems a bit iffy. Alright. He came up with a name he could trust his daughter with. Dr. Hifumi Takano, so I could trust him, right? I had to believe he'd find me, but it mightn't take more than a few days. I'd have to wait patiently. A few days? A month? More? I could only wait patiently. Either way, I couldn't stay in the box. The staff would find me there. I went out into the rain again, but this time the rain felt a little warmer than before. I had wished to die by lightning, but after that call, I was filled with hope and the will to live. I wanted to live, and that's why I felt pain all over my body. When I still wished to die, I didn't feel anything. I wanted Rider Toki and Golden Sumo. I wish they'd just fucking do their rerun already instead of these random ass reruns for servants that nobody really cares about. Or like the ones that aren't the big titles. The big name ones. I had to wait patiently until Takano came to pick me up. I had to get to the House of Love and Mercy. That would be the best place to wait for him. I didn't think the orphanage would tell him I escaped to the House of Love and Mercy, but the house wouldn't stop me from calling him. All I had to do is call him again and let him know where I was. But I didn't know where I could find the House of Love and Mercy. I couldn't see signs and I didn't know what direction the orphanage I escaped from was in. I just couldn't stop. I had to walk. I had to find shelter. I had to find someone and ask for directions for the house. I had to keep going because I finally saw the light at the end of the tunnel. The chills and pain tormented me, but I couldn't die until I met Takano. I wished a car would come by. If it was someone who lived in the area, I could ask. But the police wouldn't do me any good. I was sure the orphanage already called them about our escape and they wouldn't be forgiving. The police were sure to send me back to the orphanage. Either way, I wish someone would show up. Rider Toki and Golden Sumo are aging way too well into Japan's meta, yeah. You can't do much about that. They won't fucking reprint that shit, and it's like the most bananas stuff. Like, 7 years into the game, it's still super OP. That CE is way too good. At some point, if you're not gonna remake a CE, you have to fucking reprint that shit, man. That's fucking stupid that it's unobtainable. Unobtainable and still one of the best CEs ever made. How long did I walk? Still no car. Just as I couldn't help but think maybe this world perished, leaving only me behind, a car showed up. I sensed the car behind me and turned around, seeing their headlights approaching me. I thought for a moment, should I stand in the street to stop them? It was so dark. I didn't think the car would notice if I just waved at it, but if I were to stand in the middle, I could get run over. Yeah, that'd be dangerous. Well, I thought the car was getting closer and closer, and when I made the phone call, I panicked and I didn't know what to say, but with this car, I'd have to think very carefully. If I couldn't think of anything, I should let the car go. With those thoughts in my mind, I was surprised when the car slammed the brakes with a screech and came to a stop. Maybe I wasn't all there after the miraculous experience of lightning striking near me. I half lost my mind in those woods. I wasn't thinking straight. Because the car stopped after recognizing me. In other words, the driver knew who I was. Well, you're in trouble now. And the only people in the area who had recognized me were... Suddenly a chill ran through my body. I started dashing away. I heard a voice calling after me. I no longer had the strength to run. My feet were trembling. I couldn't make them cooperate. I realized then I shouldn't have sat down in the booth. That's why I couldn't keep running. I was suddenly grabbed from behind the collar of my clothes, almost choking me. I heard the fabric being ripped. I fell in a puddle and a staff member got on top of me. I feel like this is entirely her fault. This time his finger wasn't in my mouth. All I could do was struggle. And as I did so, I remembered all the scary stories Eriko and the others told me. All the torture the child who was caught had to endure. The drowned ducky punishment, the mashed caterpillar, and the splayed piggy. The names of those punishments came to my mind. I screamed and struggled with all my might, but it was too late. I was shoved into the backseat of the car. Why couldn't they just let me go? Simple, they didn't want me talking to them about anyone. The staff were yelling and screaming while chasing me. But once we were in the car, they went silent, like the Grim Reaper had come to take me. Hey, like, oh no. Dude, she was walking in the middle of the road and she's like, I guess I'll see if I can stop this random car that's, I haven't seen a single car. It couldn't possibly be from the orphanage. Like, shit, man. Shit, man. If you don't even know where the road from the orphanage is, you are making some ballsy choices. Being like, yeah, I'll just stop this random car. I haven't seen any cars on the way from the orphanage here, and I haven't seen any cars on the way from the orphanage town. But, this is the first car I've seen. It's coming right from the orphanage, so it's probably not these guys. Like, fucking what? I feel like it's 100% on her on this one. This capture is like 500% on her. All she had to do was instantly hide in the woods, and she'd be saved. Especially because she knew they'd be checking the fucking booth. It's like the only shelter in the region. She even said, like, I can't stay here because they'll check the phone booth. And then she's like near the phone booth and she's like, oh, someone's here. Maybe they're like, what? That's ambitious. Alright. Whether I liked it or not, I'd come to terms with the fact my luck had run out. But I'd called Takano, so I knew he would come get me. I didn't know when that would be, but I knew it would happen someday. So I wanted to live. I'd be saved if I lived. I couldn't even imagine the kind of punishment awaiting me, but even so I said to myself, I have to live. I already found the light at the end of the tunnel, and all I had to do was endure until I reached it. Car stopped, we arrived at the front gate of the orphanage, and 2 staff members grabbed my shoulders so I wouldn't run. My shoulders were skinny, so it hurt a lot. I was scared of what I'd have to go through. We went through the door, and I was finally sheltered from the rain. In a way, I wasn't sheltered at all, though. It was the middle of the night and long past time to turn all the lights off. The orphanage should have been quiet. But I heard a noise. It was a strange noise, the noise of a shower, the noise of metal objects crashing into each other, the staff yelling and screaming, and a chill went down my spine. What could I possibly write down to describe this fear? A staff member knocked on the door of the storage room and the door opened. The moment it did, an angry roar issued from inside. The sight leapt into my eyes. I couldn't take in the bizarre scene before me. 2 staff members were hitting a mat with bamboo swords while yelling violently. It was a mat used in, the one when you do gymnastics, but why was it rolled up like that? The rolled up mat was tied with a string and was standing in the corner. The staff members kept hitting it. Usually words are said to a person, but why are they yelling at a rolled up mat? The way they were hitting and yelling at it was as if they'd went mad. Oh, wait, I could see something sticking from the top of the mat. It was, let me see, whose shoes were those? And then I froze. I couldn't think anymore. One man stood in front of me, the man's pinky finger wrapped in bandages. My eyes moved from his pinker fingers and met with his. The beast's eyes met mine, peering with intent to devour me. I squeezed out a voiceless scream. My voice didn't come out, so it was more like a goldfish opening and closing its mouth. He stuck his little finger in front of me and roared. I couldn't tell if it was a word or a meaningless shriek, but I was certain it was something abusive. I was scared, and I didn't want to die. I wanted to live. I knew Takano would show up to save me. That's why I had to live and submit myself to the fear. He's apologizing. I'm sorry, he's screaming. The hand with the bandages grabbed my hair and dragged me along. All I could do was apologize and beg forgiveness while hoping the beast had even a tiny bit of mercy in him. I was like a broken apologizing doll, a mad doll that kept muttering apologies until its key wound down. I was their toy, shedding tears, coughing blood, and apologizing in place of clicking gears. I could see into the shower room while he dragged me along. The door was open and I heard wailing from the inside. And what I saw was strange. There was a locker on its side in the shower. An odd sight, a locker taking a shower sideways. I never imagined anything like that before. The locker was taking a cold shower while two staff members hit it with bamboo swords. That explained the metallic noise. The beast didn't want me to see that. He pulled my hair violently and twisted my neck, so I looked in the opposite direction. And then I realized he didn't do that to stop me from watching. He did it to make me look at something else. I saw a window in a courtyard. Usually it was too dark to see, but the lights were on, and the courtyard was bright. And then I saw it. Inside the hen house, I saw X. What's that? X, X, and X? That hair was Eriko's. X? X, X? Why was she... That was far too... X. Sorry, I'm sorry. I don't know what's happening. They blurted everything out. Sorry. Alright, I don't want to die. I know Takano's coming to save me. I know he's coming. I was taken to the staff bathroom and it stunk of ammonia. I saw something which just doesn't fit in a bathroom. Why was this in the bathroom, I thought? He's not planning to... something me with that, is he? No way, no way. Kanashi, this is your punishment for breaking the rules. Everyone must follow them. If you don't, you get punished. You understand? I'll never do it again. I'll do anything you tell me to. Please, please spare me. Please spare me, Frank. But that hurts. No. The end. Alright. You don't remember Higurashi having the rape tag? And now it does. We'll just add that to the list. Yeah, we got some new tags. We'll add that to the list alongside the horror one that was missing. Good read so far, although I'm not really seeing... I don't really care about Takano's backstory, so... We're like 3 chapters in, and most of this backstory isn't really telling me anything particularly interesting. Eva. We could have an Eva visual novel. Nipple. Alright. How long have I been crying? I don't know how long I've been comforted like this. My grandfather's hand is on my cheek to comfort me. I'm holding his hand lovingly and pressing my cheek against it. Are you okay? Grandpa? My grandfather put his other hand on my head. The warmth of his palms gradually calmed me down. Piles of documents were around me. It was a mistake to sort through data while lying on a fluffy carpet. I must have fallen asleep and had a terrible dream. If you sleep facing down, the pressure on your chest makes it easier to have nightmares. It's getting quite late. Why don't you go to sleep, Miyoka? I'm fine. I took a nap. I'm not sleepy anymore. I'm almost done. So I'm gonna finish up, okay? You have school tomorrow. You should go to sleep, otherwise you get scolded for yawning again. I have been going to bed late recently, and because of that I yawn a lot at school. My teacher must have written a note to my grandfather. Fine. I'll go to sleep as soon as I'm done. Please let me finish, okay? Besides, you shouldn't mind me. Go back to your study and continue with your article. The day for him to present his findings is approaching. He's been working so hard, devoting himself to his research, but there's a limit to what an individual can do. He needs a collaborator in order to go further with his research. Yeah, we skipped ahead to, after she's saved. He had to explain that his investigation could be the key to solving the mysteries of human behavior and make people understand just how important his work was, but his research is about a very complicated subject. He couldn't just seek assistance from anyone. Someone will be able to help him one day, and believing that, my grandfather earnestly continued his research. I want to help him more, but all I can do is sort through data and tidy up his materials. I also assist around the house so he can concentrate more on his research. He always tells me how helpful I am, but that isn't enough for me. I'll study hard, get into a good college, and learn many things, so I can actually be of assistance to his research. I'm a mediocre student right now, and I don't particularly like school, but I'll do it. I want to help my grandfather. What do I think about That going from sexual assault to a question about death by Schnoo via She-Hulk. It's an interesting question. Probably not worth. Probably not worth. She-Hulk's not that hot, and if his heart were to fail and he couldn't continue his research, I wouldn't hesitate to cut open my own chest and offer my heart for him. If he needs lungs, I'll give him mine. If any of his organs fail, I'll give him those. There's nothing strange about these feelings. They're perfectly normal ones. For if he found me even a day later, I might not have been alive, or even if I had lived, it would be either without my body intact or with my mind lost to me. In other words, I'm alive because my grandfather came to save me. If he hadn't rushed to find me, I wouldn't be here, so I won't hesitate to give my life for him. Moreover, I'd be more than happy to do that. Even though I want to be with him forever, human lives aren't immortal. Just like how my parents died, it happens so suddenly. Without warning. I'll never heal from my parents' deaths. But now that I have my grandfather, I'm not sad. However, his existence isn't eternal either. He may disappear suddenly or for any unexpected reason, just like my parents. That's why I wish to be part of him. No matter what happens, we'll be together forever. I don't want to be alone again. I want to be with my grandfather forever. I want to help him forever. Okay, be sure to go to sleep after you finish this, alright? Promise? I promise. We pinky promised after that. We smiled at each other, and my grandfather went back to his study. The dried up tears are making my cheeks itch. I headed to the bathroom to wash my face and brush my teeth. I looked at my face in the mirror. None of my grandfather's features are recognizable on my face. Of course they aren't. We aren't related. He must have a family too, but I've never heard about them. He doesn't seem to want to talk about that subject, so I don't ask. I don't care if he has real grandchildren or not. Even if I'm not related. I'm a granddaughter of Hifumi Takano. I'm not just a granddaughter either. I want to be more than that. I don't want a parent and child relationship or a lover's relationship, nothing like that. I want something more certain that binds our souls, something that not even a tragedy can destroy. I am Mio Takano, Hifumi's granddaughter. Maybe it should be Mio instead. That's what my grandfather sometimes calls me. I want to succeed Hifumi's spirit. Since his name counts from 1 to 3, I want us to share that 3 and be the 4th in his line. Today my name changes. I wrote that new name in the mirror. Mio Takano. A wonderful name. For the new me. Ancient or name. Colonel, sir. Good to see you again. Takano-kun, welcome. Come on, no more Colonel stuff. No. I was worried when I heard you were ill. You look great now. I don't know which Takano this is. My grandfather always told me he doesn't have friends. He used to tell me everyone died in the war, but it's not quite true. He has one close friend. This is him, an elderly man my grandfather calls Colonel Koizumi. I don't know where they met, but every time they get together, all they talk about is military and the war. I guess that's where they met. Look at you, Mio-chan. How tall are you now? We just had a physical checkup the other day. I think I've grown 2 centimeters. Wonderful. Good girl. Make sure you eat well, play a lot, and grow big and healthy. I envy you, Takano, for having such a cute granddaughter. Koizumi knows that my grandfather and I aren't related, but he always calls me his granddaughter. It makes me happy, so I poured a little more black tea in his cup. After I finished serving tea, I left with a bow. I want to stay and listen to them talk, but I guess my grandfather doesn't want me to hear those stories, so he always makes me leave. I left before I was told to, but having to leave doesn't mean I need to go to a different room. I just headed to the other side of this huge living room instead. Must be a big room. Although I'm not right by them, I can sit on a sofa and listen to their conversation. And if they need something, I can come help right away. I try to earn points that way to prove I'm useful. I sat on a sofa away from them and started reading an encyclopedia. That sounds insanely boring. But she's probably just listening in, so it doesn't matter if she's actually reading it. While doing that, I tried to listen to their conversation. It's great. The professor said they want to come over on Sunday, the week after next. Really? Well, thank you very much, Koizumi. Don't mention it. This just means the report you wrote was that interesting, Takano. They're showing a lot of interest. They even said it's possible this research could receive the Nobel Prize. A Nobel Prize. That sounds wonderful. My grandfather laughed. Since he laughed so cheerfully, something great must have happened. Koizumi must have shown the society the essay my grandfather was about to announce and gauged the reactions. Supposedly they found it interesting. It means they recognized the value of my grandfather's research. They made me happy too, but what worries me is you'll get infected with the syndrome yourself. Make sure you don't end up clawing out your own throat, okay? Well, maybe I'm already infected, but Hinamizawa syndrome is harmless if you live a normal life. If it was a dangerous disease back then, when the villagers believed in Oyashiro and bound themselves with strict rules, but those have faded over time and people rarely show symptoms unless something big happens. After so many cases? A patient's emotional state has a lot to do with how the syndrome develops. As long as you live a normal life, there's little to worry about. It's when one's under stress, like the war, the disease gets worse. Right. Well, there's nothing to worry about. The subjective symptom of the initial stages is paranoia akin to depression. Once you notice it, you can teach yourself to relax, and by using breathing methods, you could also get at least 9 hours of sleep a night over a 1-week period. 9 hours, that's a lot. That's how you prevent it from worsening. In fact, of all the Hinamizawa soldiers under my direction, not even one died mysteriously. As he talks, grandfather started demonstrating the Takano breathing method and a bizarre exercise technique. According to him, this technique relaxes the body, letting blood and lymphatic fluid flow smoothly, and as a result, you relax emotionally too. Okay. The movements involved in the technique are weird. I had to look away because my grandfather looked so silly. That was one thing about his research I felt bad about. Oh. Grandfather asked me to do the exercise too. I don't want to make him sad, so I do it when instructed. Just do a weird dance on command. Glad to hear that. Hideo Noguchi died in the middle of his research. Please be careful, okay? However, Noguchi-sensei's great work is still acknowledged even after his death, and as a researcher, I'm sure that was his long-term goal. Grandfather tells me about Hideo Noguchi often. He was born the son of a poor farmer, but studied hard to become a doctor. He was mistreated, though, because of his background, so he left Japan. Can't kill Sartex. Moved to the United States. There he made many accomplishments as a researcher and discovered a vaccine for yellow fever. Grandfather's background is somewhat similar to his. We often said that of all researchers he admired him the most. Hideo Noguchi died in North Africa. Well, he discovered a vaccine for yellow fever. He heard it wasn't effective on yellow fever in North Africa, so he went there to research it, came down with the disease, and died. Alright. Just do some casual reading. A researcher losing his life for his research. Sometimes that's a test of a researcher's courage. I do appreciate the real-world references they put in here. They're fairly well researched. I spent a little bit of time looking up the Wikipedia articles whenever they reference real-world characters, and they're always fairly accurate. So I'm going to assume that Hideo Noguchi actually did invent the vaccine for the yellow fever. The Spriggan and Fire Lady just showed up, so you're close. Yeah, those are some of the last two. After the Spriggan and Fire Lady, the Fire Sprite, there is Eric, I believe, and maybe 1 or 2 other guys. I think it's just that though. You're right at the end. Be careful. Be careful. There's a couple annoying transitions where they start charging up their NPs really fast. And then you have to deal with Bunyan and Eric both being there. Yeah, you're right about near the end. Bunny Tori with NP. I mean, the Spriggan's fucking tanky is all that's a tall order. The Spriggan has several 100,000 hit points, so I hope she has the event damage CE on. If you get her, it'll be good. Yeah, in that sense, Grandfather's brave to risk visiting Hinamizawa himself to gather information. Yeah, you really don't want to be going to Hinamizawa if you're going to get a brain parasite that might cause you to go berserk and kill yourself if you leave. Bit risky. He himself says he may already be infected, although my grandfather estimates from ancient texts that the Hinamizawa syndrome was only a menace centuries ago. And now it's no different from the usual bacteria that share a symbiosis with humans. Many people became ill with the disease during the war, but that was because they were in an extremely abnormal situation. In today's peaceful environment, it's almost impossible for someone to develop symptoms. He sounds optimistic, but he never brought me with him to Hinamizawa, so maybe he isn't as optimistic as all that. However, since I live with him, there is a possibility I'm already infected as well, but I'm not worried at all. That's because my grandfather taught me as long as I maintain myself physically and emotionally, I won't develop any symptoms. I know all about that horrible terminal symptoms of Hinamizawa syndrome though, but I'm not overly fearful of them. Grandfather's enjoying his conversation with Mr. Koizumi. That's understandable. Told him some people showed great interest in his report. They even want to come over on Sunday, the week after next, to meet and talk to him directly. And we know that there will be no progress on that front. With the rapid advance of modern medicine, unexplored frontiers are steadily dwindling. Was it possible the syndrome my grandfather discovered might be a new continent in the field? It'll be decided in 2 weeks. It sounds like there'll be more than one person coming, and also sounds like they're all important people in the society. They're all rich and famous, yet they aren't satisfied with that. They all want to be involved with something that's worth an international reward. You gotta head to bed, you got work in the morning. Alright, good night, my dude. I am fortunate enough not to be working tomorrow, so I can be up quite late. This is a chance to gain assistance and sponsorship at the same time. See you in 2 weeks. Make sure to be there. Good luck. Thank you very much. I owe you everything. It's too early to say that. Let's wait until you find some sponsors. When that time comes, we'll have a toast for that treasured wine of yours. That was the last of their conversation. My grandfather kept his head bowed until Mr. Koizumi was gone. It sounded like he set up this great chance for my grandfather, so I bowed my head just like him. Did you hear that? Finally, a chance for me. There's people who are interested in my report. I know, I heard. I have people to fund you and people to help you with your research. Well, that's not set in stone yet. Although he didn't want to admit it, he had a good feeling about it. And unfortunately, we have bad news for him that it's not going to work out. As unfortunately, this is but a memory. Memory of past failures. Past defeats. Lost potential. And it's the young girl's memory looking back at the past. The research he conducted all alone was finally going to gain some recognition. I'm so sorry, dude. Sunday? The week after next? Quite, I'll be busy. The first impression depends on my presentation. I have to rearrange my data. No, I should practice explaining things in front of people. Anyway, I have to make sure I don't forget anything. It'll be a lot of work to rearrange your data. Your handwriting's so bad. Maybe you should write bigger. Anyway, I'll be busy. The next 2 weeks will go by fast. You're right. I'll help you too. All the formal and chairs have to be dusted. We'll need to straighten our rolled up documents. You think leaving them laid out under the rug overnight would fix it? We have plenty of things to do. Mio, could you help me? Of course. I'll skip school for it. No, you can't miss school. We laughed together, thrust our fists into the air, and motivated ourselves to work hard towards the week after next. And since that day, my grandfather spent more time in his study. It's not easy to create a report that you're going to... I'm surprised they didn't even make a sprite for her grandfather, considering how much dialogue there is with her grandfather and the old man. Like, with this much dialogue, there are characters in this series that, when their sprite was introduced, they literally had, 5 lines of dialogue in that arc. The grandfather has had, 10 scenes. Surely he should get a sprite, but I mean, I also thought the fucking protagonist of Arc 5 should have gotten or Arc 4? Yeah, Arc 4 should have gotten a sprite. But he didn't get one until, Arc 7. It was fucking weird. Where their assets go is weird. We're at a black screen here. But this is a living room. Surely they have the asset for a living room or could make one. They've had, not one, but 2 remakes of this game. But they're still on a black screen for this? We know where we're set. We're set in a living room. Surely you can invent a living room. Not easy to create a report you're going to show to other people. Copying machines hadn't been invented back then, so everything had to be handwritten. He knows it's somewhere, but he just can't remember where he put the data he needs. As for me, well, I gotta make sure I have enough guest cups to serve tea, so I'm counting them. Do I have enough tea leaves? Maybe I should get something to go with the tea. My grandfather knows nothing about these things. There's a whole list of chores to do. I need to clean the windows so the room will be bright. What else? 2 weeks pass quickly while we busy ourselves getting things done. And what a wonderful 2 weeks it is. I can finally feel I'm actually doing something to help my grandfather with his research. I hope the day of the meeting will be a memorable one for my grandfather. I hope the day will be a beautiful and clear one. Maybe he dies. We don't actually know how he died. I thought he died of a disease slowly. And just as I wish, the day is beautiful. Things are going well, right? Right? Evening. My grandfather, having dressed formally, paced around his study nervously. I'm also in a beautiful dress. I've only worn it once before at my piano recital. But I'm not nervous like my grandfather. His silly nervousness actually relaxes me. Are they here yet? Grandfather looked out the window. And then a black car stopped in front of the gate. Back then, a car was a luxury item. I don't think I even had one classmate whose family owned one. It only makes sense the men coming out of the car look respectable. This is presumably... So they're talking post-war, and the grandfather was in World War II. So I'm trying to think of what year this is. Probably... We're still in the 60s, right? I think we're still in the 60s. We gotta be still in the 60s, and this is a memory, so she's probably like 12 or something like that? We're still in the 60s. It only makes sense the men coming out of the car look respectable. Grandfather and I ran out to welcome them. 60s Japan, I can see that. Having a lot of cars? Yeah, that's a bit difficult. They are pretty low on war resources. They probably should have a steady supply of oil at this point, though, right? Welcome, I'm Takano. Thank you for coming today. May I take your jacket? I greeted them and filled the role we decided ahead of time. Though my being relaxed by my grandfather's silliness ended at that point, both my grandfather and I were stiff with anxiety as we greeted them now that the moment was here. Are these guys government agents? Or just independently wealthy sponsors? Nice to meet you, doctor, and hello, young lady. Are you his granddaughter? Yes. Mio, please say hello. Very nice to meet you. I'm Mio Takano. What a good girl. I'm here in place of Koizumi-sensei. Something came up and he can't make it today. He's very sorry. I see. Sorry to hear that. The person who set up everything isn't here. My grandfather even had his treasured wine ready just as they promised 2 weeks ago. Well, that's a small flag. It's like a yellow flag. I wouldn't even call it a red flag. It's like, okay. Things are not going 100% as planned, but things could go off without a hitch, you know. If your pitch is good enough, you don't really need the guy who's inviting these guys here to see your research or pitch them the research in person. You could probably sell them on the back of your research yourself, right? Give me 1 second. This is Dr. Hifumi Takano. Dr. Takano was a leading member of the Research Center for Prevention of Epidemics in Manchuria during the war. That it was World War II wasn't made clear. There you go. Manchuria wasn't held by the Japanese. After the World War II. He made many advances in developing synthetic food and synthetic alcohol as measures against malnutrition and rations shortages. That's... okay. Synthetic food and alcohol. Interesting. We're going back to that rumor about, I'm going back to that rumor from the first and second game about, the canned rations being people. That's, interesting. A nice callback, though it's not clear that that was actually ever true. Probably just a rumor, as a lot of things in this series are rumors or bluffing. People bluffing that they can do something, and then someone takes action because they continuously bluff they can do it. Kind of exploded in a few people's faces in several timelines. Nice to meet you. Oh, pleasure to meet you. Thank you for having me. The men are even older than my grandfather. They take off their hats one at a time to greet him. Their beards, expensive-looking canes, and glasses tell me they are very high up in society. They have canes. They're using canes as either for support or as a fashion statement. They gotta be pretty high up in society for that, yeah. Grandfather bows to each one of them. Everyone, please come into the study. Oh, please excuse the mess. Come in. Mio, serve tea for everyone. Yes. I wasn't nervous at all earlier, but now I think I'm the most nervous one. I'm not the one making the presentation, and I'm not the one being evaluated, so it's ridiculous I'm feeling so nervous. I don't know if I should use that as my excuse, but I was so nervous, I knocked over the thermos I filled to the brim with hot water and ruined the black tea I'd chosen specifically for this day. Oh my goodness. Dude, I fucking hate when shit like this happens. I apologized to my grandfather and started to boil water again. I just need enough for the guests. By the time I had cups of tea and cookies ready, grandfather's presentation was at its key part. It pierces the blood or lymph vessels and spreads to the spinal cord, and from there it travels along the cerebrospinal fluid to the brain. I've confirmed many cases of encephalitis after autopsies. Eosinophilic and meningoencephalitis is known to be caused by roundworm, and we predict its behavior to be extremely similar. Grandfather said, walking between samples in formalin jars, pointing to several as he gave his explanation. I have a quick question for him. Is he presenting to people who know anything about science? Because the more big words you use, the riskier it is that they have no idea what you're talking about. On the other, and you should probably try to cut out technobabble if you're just selling them. These are literal, you're trying to sell them on like brain parasites that can cause people to go berserk. You should probably narrow it down to that instead of blabbing its own, but maybe there are scientists, I don't quite know. There are over 100 formalin jars in here with parts of brains in them. They were all very dusty, so I spent a few days cleaning them. I'm rather proud to see sparkling jars all lined up like this. However, roundworms induce an extremely wide range of symptoms, a headache, narcosis, derangement. None of these are characteristic symptoms of roundworms. On the other hand, symptoms of Hinamizawa syndrome are very specific to that disease. You're saying one of them is to claw at one's own throat, yes? Exactly. Some of the soldiers witnessed it before their fellows died. Such self-mutilation was never seen before in any disease. It only occurs in Hinamizawa syndrome, and since that symptom was only seen in terminal stage patients, I believe that's a method of exodus, something we've seen before in several parasites. They mature inside of an organism, reproduce, and leave the host, looking for the next one. So, yeah, if you ever see someone tear out their own throat, stay a good distance away from them for a short period of time. I believe it will be explained the virus does not exist outside the host body for long. What do you think about the fact that cases we've seen only in soldiers from Hinamizawa, even though other soldiers touched their blood? It must have been full of parasitic eggs or larvae. Do you think that was a possibility of them getting infected? I suspected an incubation period, but since it was limited to people from the Hinamizawa region, I believe something like the unique local climate may play a role. I'll talk about that in the next part, but the ancient indigenous beliefs of Hinamizawa have... That's not possible, Takano. I've never heard of parasites behaving socially. Well, that is one of the revolutionary discoveries in the Hinamizawa syndrome. The elderly gentlemen mumbled to each other while pointing at the data. And with that, I finally realized things aren't going too well. Dr. Takano, I've been reviewing your data while listening to your gracious presentation. First, it's impossible for parasites to control human minds. Human thoughts are controlled by the brain, which is a work of art created by God. Furthermore, ideology is an extremely advanced aspect of human thought, an advanced capability bestowed only to humans on this planet. That is saying it's a work of art created by God and therefore can't be altered by external forces is not quite... quite the ideological statement, I'd say. But, not really true. You could say parasites intervene in... Please, that's absurd. I agree. Ideology can be considered a manner of thought that prioritizes the whole over the individual. In other words, the most important prerequisite condition for a society. There's no way parasites would be gifted with that, when their only demand is to pass on their genes. In the field of biology, there's never once been a discovery of sociality or eusociality within parasites. There are cases of parasites interfering with host behavior, and that one is absolutely true. There are lots of... I would not recommend you ever want to read about parasites in animals. They're fucking terrifying, man. Be nice. Some of them, it'd just be nicer to be a fucking zombie. You die cleanly, and you're a zombie that maybe infects someone else. Nice. You die, maybe in pain, maybe suddenly, but your average zombie virus isn't too unpleasant. You're misunderstanding one thing, Dr. Takano. The principle that drives parasites capable of controlling their host is reproduction and propagation. It's only that primitive concept. Even in the example you used of a rat infected with Toxoplasma gondii losing its aversion to cats. There's an example. The altered behavior is simply a means to let their host be eaten by a better host to change hosts. Like a grasshopper infected with horsehair worm drowning itself Once a horsehair worm matures, it becomes aquatic. When that happens, it guides a grasshopper to the water and drowns it, entering the environment it's adapted for. Exactly, the suicidal act of clawing at one's throat corresponds in the case of Hinamizawa syndrome. For example, guinea worms escape the body by having the host scratch the affected area. Indeed, the purpose of all those parasites is reproduction. For them to infest the brain, God's masterpiece, well, checking the brain itself isn't that strange, but to say they infest it and influence ideology is delusional. In fact, it's a dangerous idea. I don't think it's strange that an isolated culture developed its own unique faith. There's many examples of that all over Japan. So you're saying they were all due to parasites? Or that they were due to cultural reasons, except one in Hinamizawa, which was caused by parasites? How do you establish the distinction? Well, as I said, in my autopsies on the soldiers who died, there was sufficient evidence to believe... Excuse me, Takano. I don't think you've gathered enough case studies to call it clinical data. Furthermore, as you said, it was during the war. No, I mean, as I explained in the next part, it develops when one experiences suspicion, nervousness, and stress, becoming unbalanced. I think it's a unique approach to suspect some manner of commonality if there were several cases of unique and bizarre self-mutilation, such as clawing one's throat out, yet it's all the more reason it's unreliable. Perhaps it was a coincidence that such rare cases happened under abnormal circumstances like the war. I believe you witnessed the convergence of coincidences and trapped them in a gestaltist view, deluding yourself into finding a pattern. Otherwise, you'd need an enormous amount of data on Hinamizawa syndrome patients, but ethically, that's impossible to prove. The native's act of recognizing it as a curse suggests it's more within the realm of culture-bound syndromes. And you think it's a delusional parasitic disease? I hate to say this, but I think you admire the beliefs of the Hinamizawans a little too much, and as a result, you might have been taken in by their culture-bound reactive syndrome. Actually, that happens quite often with people who research more unusual fields of study. We're trying to be careful ourselves. The more they talk, the paler my grandfather's face becomes. I was just stunned myself. We've never heard of parasites like that. That's impossible. It's just a coincidence. There isn't enough data. The talk goes on and on. Every time my grandfather says something, they dismiss it. Before he knew it, my grandfather could only hold his silence before their criticisms. Well, no revolutionary idea is accepted at first. Maybe this research of yours is one of those things. Even if it's ridiculed at first, it may achieve recognition in later years. That happens all the time. But I'm just an amateur. Just a private researcher who didn't graduate from an elite college. I don't belong to an academic clique. I don't have any connections with experts or research centers. That's why it's all I can do. Is the Hinamizawa syndrome real? Is it my delusion like you all say it is? To find out, I need your help. Of course, if this was the discovery of the century, it would create an uproar. After all, you're suggesting that human culture and ideology, it might be the will of parasites. Our frontal lobe is a place for them to live. Quite the audacious theory. If a link between the existence of the syndrome and the disease carrier's belief in the Oyashiro could be established, it would be possible to explain all religions, no, all cultural division on Earth. That would be very aggressive. What a magnificent, unique idea, Dr. Takano. Instead of showing people like us your essays in secret, you should publish a book for the general public. Grandfather looks at the ground, his fists trembling a little. But their words were far too cruel. I don't know anything about academics. I'm just a little girl, but I don't know what they're talking about, but Grandfather worked so hard by himself until today, but to prove his research and delve further into it, he needs sponsors. And yet those sponsors cast him away, calling his research delusional. It's outrageous. Like asking which came first, the chicken or the egg. Besides, if his research was at the level those cheeky men want to see, he wouldn't need their help. But they're saying they can't help him unless they see results beyond the level of private research. Ah, a wonderful catch-22. In any field, doesn't research always start out with just an idea? If you can prove its existence beforehand, what's the point of researching it to begin with? If a wild idea can't be the subject of research, how do we gain knowledge at all? Never mind. When Koizumi came 2 weeks ago, didn't he say they were really interested? What's going on? This is the complete opposite of what he said. Koizumi claimed he was unable to help, but I didn't think he was actively sabotaging us. Yeah. I think this is an interesting research. The human brain holds many secrets. Dr. Takano's idea is an extremely unique one. It seems impossible to ignore from a eugenics perspective. Humans are not God's children, we're simply animals who underwent the baptism of evolution. Maybe it's the belief in God that is preventing them from thinking their brains can be modified or altered, their perspective altered by parasites, or anything else for that matter. As such, according to Darwin, there'll be differences in that evolution based on environment. See, now these guys are specifically speaking from a Darwinian perspective rather than a Christian perspective. So maybe it is the change of perspective in what is believed to happen in biology that's like changing their will. Could also help their willingness to research this. Those guys use Christianity as an excuse, but he also said that they were like unwilling to research his stuff due to politics. So maybe there's like a lot of there's a lot of factors at play preventing the research from progressing. In other words, humans can be either superior or inferior. We must think of how we can maintain good bloodlines and how we can leave good genes behind as a nation. All right. All about that eugenics program. Good stuff, guys. If we don't raise it as a national policy and research towards it, by the next century, mankind may fall to a fatal position on the hierarchy. Dr. Takano's research has the potential of encompassing more than just parasitic diseases. If the evil, inferior humans we shouldn't let breed can actually be explained by disease instead of genetics, it becomes possible to correct their behavior through surgery, and as a result, we can leave wonderful people for our future. From the eugenics point of view, Takano's research should get started immediately. Possible, it could be the greatest discovery since Money's invention of the lobotomy. The causality between infectious diseases and individuals' nature could be established to be more than Nobel Prize worthy. Uzumi-sensei, thank you for giving us this chance. Hanyuu is a single-minded and passionate man, but he's not good at dealing with people. He's been working on his research alone, but now he's hit the limit of what one can do. He needs help. Please listen to what he has to say. Oh, you don't need to ask. We're the ones who should be thanking you for this opportunity. We're already willing to help him. In fact, the more urgent matter will be arranging jurisdictions within society. Okay. I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be involved in such a unique research project at this age. There's a knock on the door. The sliding door opened and the owner peeked in. Excuse me, there's someone asking for you. May I bring him in? Someone? Who could it be? The owner whispered into Koizumi's ear and he turned pale all of a sudden. Please let him in. I'll come greet him with you. As Koizumi stood up, two pairs of footsteps reached the door. Sensei, I didn't expect you to be here. Koizumi, long time no see. Okay, can we like actually start a story at some point? We're like three chapters in, and we still haven't actually gotten to like anything besides her backstory. I'm kind of getting like a little bit impatient with this. Because I was expecting for the final arc to be learning a lot of interesting things, and I feel like I'm 3 chapters in, and like they haven't actually done anything that I really cared about. Like the scenes are, we're reading lots about Takano's grandfather, who's dead, by the way, at the start of the story. This is really weird for like a final arc to be like 3 out of 13 chapters. Well, there's like 12 chapters and then like an ending chapter. So out of 13 chapters, we're like 20% into, we're like almost 20% in now. And they're like doing something that's like completely off the rails, like they're doing the 5th arc, or the 4th arc? Yeah, it was the 4th arc, I think, where they did the completely different perspective the whole time with a different arc. But that was acceptable because we're like halfway through the story and they're like, well, we're doing some backstory now. I don't know what the fuck they're doing here. But it's getting a little bit irritating. This is probably the worst start to an arc I've read in a while. So I don't care about any of the content. Like, they actively put pressure on you not to give a flying fuck about Takano, and then they shove you into Takano's footstep. Then they shove you into Takano's shoes and her backstory. None of which so far has even remotely started giving you a reasonable justification for what she's doing in the main story. It just feels like I'm reading a very long side tangent that doesn't actually lead anywhere. Like, this leads us somewhere, but it's not leading me anywhere interesting. It's a side story I didn't care about, and I was kind of expecting, like, more of the main story? Another version of it? Something else? I don't know. Like a positive solution, perhaps? And we're not really getting that. I'm guessing we'll probably get it maybe in the 4th or 5th, maybe the 4th or the 6th chapter? But I guess we'll see. You need to tell me something. I'm all ears. Go ahead. The old man, known as Koizumi, was not someone whose status could be taken lightly. Although he retired, he was still powerful enough to wield great influence as a fixer, so from his meek attitude, it was easy to figure out what kind of person this man must be. The old man held onto his bodyguard's shoulders as he walked. He had an expensive-looking cane in his other hand. What's with the people and their canes? He couldn't even walk on his own because of his old age. Well, at least he has a cane for that. I can understand that. If you can't walk properly, I mean, go for your cane. Bitch about that, but all these other guys walking around with canes is weird. He couldn't even walk on his own because of his old age, but his intense commanding presence hadn't declined a bit. I'll get straight to the point. Your friend's research put a stop to it. What? What do you mean? Koizumi, you must take his knowledge of Hinami's syndrome to his grave. Nobody should touch it. If anyone looks into it, well, if you poke a bush, a snake will come out. A big fat one, too. It would pay me just to watch you get swallowed by it. That's why I'm here to give you some advice. Can your friend wait for a little? How about it? Do you want to have some drinks with me in a different room? Yes, I'll come with you straight away. Koizumi realized he was being pressured. He didn't know what direction it was coming from, but clearly someone wasn't comfortable with the research on the syndrome, and they were trying to stop him from supporting it. Koizumi-kun, do you remember the Marco Polo Bridge incident? This is the incident that started the war between China and Japan. Utter nonsense. We came here today expecting to hear a more objective side. Normally we wouldn't come all the way for something like this, but since Koizumi asked us, we didn't have a choice. It really was a waste of time, but in a way it was a good thing we came. We were able to give you some advice. You should take up bonsai instead of wasting the rest of your life on this. Bonsai's great. I agree. It's not healthy to just stare at formalin jars in a study. It sure is a unique subject. If you want, I'll introduce you to the chief of a publishing company. The general public loves things like this, you know? They aren't even trying to hide their hostility. They're laughing at my grandfather, denouncing him and saying things to denigrate not only his research, but his personality as well. I'm surprised he even likes Koizumi after this. This is quite the insult, my friend. If they're simply trying to provoke him, any response would be giving them just what they want. Even in this very moment, grandfather tried to remain a noble researcher and a proud human being. He's no longer trembling, and I'm still trying to figure out why Takano is, like, buddying up to these people 10 years in the future, rather than trying to find a way to kill the... Like, she killed, like, 2,000 people for her own shits and giggles, and has done that in, like, 10 timelines. Why is she continuing to do this, rather than fucking with these guys? Like, shouldn't these be your enemy? I don't see how the people of Hinamizawa are, like, her enemy or some shit. It seems weird, but alright. He's no longer trembling. On the contrary, he apologized to them for taking their time and told them he had no intention of keeping them any longer. We'll give this article back to you, though. It'd be easier if we could actually call it an article. One of the elderly gentlemen tossed it back to him. Grandfather couldn't catch it in time. The article he worked so hard on fell onto the floor and the papers scattered all over the carpet. The elderly gentleman left the study without even apologizing for it. Everyone else followed suit, and as they left, they trod all over my grandfather's article. It looked like his expression didn't change, but I could see it warping. I could see the wall of research grandfather bore crunching and warping sadly. I jumped. I grabbed onto the elderly gentleman's leg. I don't hate him. If I were asked if I hated him or not, the answer would be yes, but that's not the point. What I really can't stand is this foot stepping over my grandfather's article. Don't step on it! Don't step on it! Grandpa worked hard on it! Don't step on it! I just want to move the foot that's standing on his papers, but the foot doesn't move no matter how hard I push or pull, like it's rooted to the floor. I felt someone grab me from behind. It was my grandfather. Please excuse my granddaughter. Don't worry about this. We'll clean it up. Don't step on them! I'm telling you not to step on my grandfather's article! My screams don't mean a thing to them. They completely ignored my screams. They continued to step on the papers and left the study. Only my grandfather and I remain there now. My grandfather is still grabbing the back of my collar. I don't have any words left to say, only cries. He's determined not to show any emotion. He doesn't even open his mouth, so I have to cry for him. And just then, he slapped me in the face. It startled me. I'm crying for him. Why'd he slap me? And then I understand. He's the one who wants to cry, but he is enduring. So I shouldn't cry either. Fair enough. Fair enough. I wiped my eyes and my runny nose and soundly turned my eyes to the papers on the carpet, just like my grandfather. Sorry, Mia. I don't understand why he's apologizing. I thought he was going to complain about their rudeness. If I worked harder, this wouldn't have happened. Until today, you helped me so much, and it was all for nothing. Sorry. How courageous he is. Even after that disaster, he's concerned about me? I shook my head, putting my hands on the floor. I tried to gather up the papers, but they began to fall. My tears overflowed again, blurring the ink on the papers. They're all handwritten by grandfather. He was so happy that there was someone who understood his research. He was so happy he spent all night writing these. But they stepped on them. They might as well have stepped on my grandfather's soul. I didn't work hard enough. If I did more, it wouldn't have happened. Sorry. I'll work harder. I won't give up because of something like this. I don't know if he's saying that to me or himself. Don't worry. God is watching. I have to believe I'll gain recognition. That day will come. That's why I gotta keep working harder. Grandfather says that all the time. All the time, but I know the truth. God only plays with people's fate. He doesn't save anyone out of goodwill. That's why he let this happen to my grandfather, even though he worked so hard and humbly. That's why he let a horrible thing happen to me when I was an innocent little girl. Grandfather kept repeating himself. But I know the truth. God exists. The existence grandfather believes in is real. Oh? But there's no mercy to be found in God. He delivers unreasonable fates and makes us call it a challenge. I can't tell him that, of course. I asked God once more, like I did on the day of the thunderstorm. Why? Why can't you give my grandfather's effort and hard work the recognition it deserves? Well, fuck you, apparently. Grandfather told me he'd gather up the papers so I should put away the teacups. I nodded and put the teacups that hadn't even been touched onto the serving cart. As I pushed it out of the study, Grandfather told me, close the door after I leave. I always close the door when I leave. He doesn't need to remind me, but that's what he wants, so without saying anything, I closed the door. And as I walked from the study, I heard my grandfather sobbing. Tears filled my eyes once more, sadness and disappointment. I almost feel angry with myself for not being able to do anything for him. And then I felt the cool breeze on my wet cheeks. The breeze was blowing from a cracked open window. The curtain flapped gently in that breeze, and I heard the cry of the higurashi. As I listened to them, I calmed down gradually. If I can ease grandfather's pain by crying, I'll cry in his place. Seriously, how are we 3 chapters in and they've, used one sprite? How are we 3 chapters in this and they've used one sprite this whole time? We're 3 chapters in and they still haven't added, they have one sprite. It might have actually been part of, no, it was a sprite. It's not part of the background, it was a sprite. Because we saw the animation change. They're really going light on the sprites right now, and it's kind of unusual. If we're going to be spending this entire arc here, why not just add sprites for the father and daughter? Why not? That won't help. On the contrary, he started to cry because I did. I'm the one being useless here. I remember that day. I remember the reason why I'm alive now. A black background, excessive use of black backgrounds and sprites makes this arc probably the worst of all the arcs so far. If he hadn't come and saved me, I would have spent the last days of my life lying in the corner of the bathroom as a human-shaped piece of meat. Grandfather saved me, giving me back my rights, the right to walk, the right to stand up, the right to wear clothes, the right to eat, the right to speak, and the right to think. In other words, the right to live as a human being. He took action right after he got the phone call from me. He found my house and found out which orphanage I was sent to after struggling through the sloppily filed records of the public office. And then he saved me. Of course, he was working on his research then. He spent his precious research time on saving me, a perfect stranger. I vowed that if his heart failed, I'd rip out my own heart and give it to him. But of course, his heart is fine, so he doesn't need a heart. He needs something that's equally important. And that's something only I can give him in this whole world. I clenched my fists, held them tightly so that the nails left marks. I know what I'm supposed to do with this new life as Mio Takano. I finally know the reason why the new me was born. I know the purpose of Mio Takano. Fulfill a wish and weave a desired future. The strength of a string is how strong your will is. Okay. A noble and strong wish will come true. I thought I knew of my grandfather's greatness, but I didn't know the half of it. For me to be able to help him, I had to reach his level. All my lessons lead back to my grandfather. There wasn't a single subject I could ignore. Right now, studying hard is all I can do for him. I've been a teacher for a long time, but I've never seen such a hardworking student. You've learned not only academically, but socially. You've made a great deal of friends. I have a goal I can only reach by studying hard. I know how powerless an isolated genius is, so I need to learn to socialize. It's not enough. I'm not even close to where I want to be. Entering college is a step forward. What matters is what I learn there. I'm not close. I'm not even close to being able to help my grandfather. I'm proud of you. You can go to Tokyo or Ochanomizu University, any college of your choice. Nothing will stop you. The most important part for you is the school will teach you what you want to learn. A big decision that inhabits a tiny soul. If my life is heavier than the earth, then my decision is heavier than the earth. I'm predicting this is going to start fast forwarding, as it seems like we're fast forwarding her life, going towards the end of a chapter. Do I have what I need to be able to truly understand Hinamizawa syndrome and help grandfather in his research? Probably not. I don't need compromises or excuses. The heights I seek are lofty and precipitous. This isn't enough, not even close. My classmates are idiots acting like they're winners in life because they entered this school. A college is a place to learn what I need to know. If this self-proclaimed best school isn't worth my time, I'm not interested. I didn't expect a talented woman like you to end up at this parasite research center. I'm sure everyone wanted you, huh? I assumed you were interested in something bigger. I want to study and research parasites. I've worked hard to earn the right to study here. Aren't I qualified to learn? Of course, there's no reason why we would refuse someone who got the top score on the entrance exam. Welcome to the Parasite Research Center. People aren't usually that interested in our field. There aren't too many researchers who study it, but there's a lot of unknown elements compared to other fields. It's true. The study of parasites is a mysterious world, or rather, an ignorant one. An ignorant world where the preconception that parasites can't control people pervades. And those ignorant people laughed at grandfather, stepping all over his article. There are many unsolved mysteries in the world of parasites. I'm here to solve them. I came here to help the people who want to solve them. Fair enough. A wish that's guaranteed to come true is not called a wish. So she's done high school, she's done college, and now she's in medical school? She's finished medical school? Or she's gone to somewhere. I weave fate. Fate is the absolute power to control people in the world, and not just an individual. Learning isn't enough for me. I have to be able to research with my grandfather, and so I don't ignore the means to gain the help my grandfather couldn't get. His research isn't complete when it's finished being written on a desk. I need the help of others. Present it to the world so his great work will be praised by many. That's some confidence. Alright, best of luck, dude. Well, that's correct. This is an association only the top graduates of the Imperial University are allowed to join. Therefore, there's only 7 people per year may join. It's a small group compared to the normal organization of alumni. However, its solidarity is unrivaled. Thank you for inviting me for such a gathering. I'm honored. I'd like to take the lowest seat. Oh no, we can't let someone with such accomplishments and experience sit at the lowest. I'm sure everyone will welcome you. The cabinet minister and several important government officials, company presidents, and advisors will be here. They'll lead you and they'll provide the help you need. Koizumi-sensei belongs to the association, right? He was my grandfather's best friend. What a coincidence. I see. I'm sure Koizumi will be glad to find out you'll be joining. An isolated genius is a useless one. People live in a society. Oh my goodness. We live in society, guys. We're learning something new today. Society is made up of connections between people, and nobody can ignore it. I do my best as an individual, but to gain the power that can't be achieved as a mere individual, I have to rely on my connections in society. It's all for one purpose. My only wish is Mio Takano. I can't spare any effort. My certain conviction will forge a certain future. Nobody can interfere and no one can stop me. I won't allow the die to roll a 1. I won't admit that diligent efforts can be erased by a mere train accident. I won't make all the dice roll 6s. I won't entrust the die to God. I won't give in to luck. The only people who pray to God are those who don't want to work hard. I won't trust God. I'm going to create results myself. My strong will create a certain future that God can't prevent. This is a different way to become a god than the one my grandfather taught me. This is the way to become a god while still alive, and when I realized it, I became truly free from the sadness of losing my parents, free from my miserable life after that, free from grandfather's tears when his article was stepped on. That's right, I'll surpass God. I'll become an existence that God's caprices can't touch. I'll make people recognize grandfather's research. That's the future I wished for, the one I promised will come to pass. People will fight over his article. People will respectfully read the same article that was once ridiculed and stepped on. Even if grandfather dies before the day comes, I won't cry over something like that. Because he already taught me, even after being buried, one can be resurrected. I'll complete his great work, and the whole world will praise him. Grandfather will resurrect to become a god, becoming eternal. That's an everlasting bond, one not even a train accident can break. A bond not even a die that rolls a one can disturb. Since the day of that accident, my die has rolled ones over and over. But I didn't give up. I worked hard until today. I'll rise above the dice. I'll decide what to roll on it. I'll decide my own fate. And do that with my unshakable willpower. Hanyuu versus Takano soon. Hanyuu is Hanyuu. Hanyuu, completely useless with zero willpower for the last 100 years. Maybe she'll do something this arc because it's the last arc. I say that with a lack of faith, but because it's the last arc, I assume she's actually going to do something. When does the clinic open? Is there going to be air conditioning? It'll open next month. I hope there'll be a young doctor there. I heard some old ladies talking amongst themselves when I was going up the stairs to the shrine. The Erie Clinic is already completed and it's awaiting for its opening day. The state-of-the-art equipment has been delivered. The research is waiting to begin. Erie, too, stands by in top form. He's almost as passionate as I am about the syndrome. The dogs, the counterintelligence unit to support and protect our research, are already stationed at a dummy company somewhere near Okinomiya. They're getting in touch with various public institutions. Everything's going well. The only thing to worry about are the rumors about the Hinamizawa Dam construction plans. There's a rumor that the Ministry of Construction is pushing through a dam project that will submerge all of Hinamizawa, but they're under pressure from several groups. None of my contacts have much influence in the Ministry of Construction, so things aren't going well. Even if applying pressure doesn't work, there are several other measures, so either way, it'll come to a deadlock. I'm not being optimistic, I just know that's how it'll end. I'll conduct research here in Hinamizawa. I'm going to accomplish that with my absolute will, and that's why even if God rolls a 1 on the dice and says he's going to submerge the city, I won't be afraid. I won't entrust my die to God. I'm the one who's going to pick up the die, and I'll roll a 6. I'm just going to put it to 6. I didn't come to the shrine to declare war on the god of this place. I came because I know you can get a great deal from here. I walked by the shrine and headed to the spot I found last time I visited. It's the perfect spot for overlooking the entire village. The strong wind reminds me I'm only at the starting line, and there will be a headwind before I reach my goal. I looked over the village without faltering the wind. Grandfather approached the syndrome from a medical point of view, but he also approached it from a folkloric one as well. Wow, wasn't expecting to read that word. The strange belief system in this village is proof the existence of the syndrome was known even in ancient times. That's quite the assumption. It'll be extremely useful to research their history too. My grandfather hadn't been doing research for hundreds of years, of course, but this place has been here for hundreds of years, and they're still living with the syndrome for that long. Therefore, the beliefs created this place and the legend itself can be considered the foremost researchers. It's stupid to call them old folktales or nonsense. I've been researching them slowly, but they're indeed very interesting. No wonder grandfather was intrigued by them. The syndrome has many fascinating sides to it. Skipped a line. It's like a kaleidoscope showing infinite light with never a slight change in angle. It's so fun to trace grandfather's research. Finding the same results as my grandfather reminds me I'm indeed following his footsteps, which makes me very, very happy. The shrine is dedicated to Oyashiro, guardian deity of the village. But this god the villagers worship is a delusion created by the parasites. Wait, did I meet Nomura-kun from Tokyo? I don't know if I know who that is off the top of my head. Nomura. I don't think we know Nomura. When I solve their secret and announce it to the world. The god of this place will be no more. The only person we know from Tokyo is the fucking detective kid from Arc 4. It's the moment I take revenge on the one who put me through misery and tested my fate. That's it, isn't it? It's not about making my grandfather's dreams come true, it's about getting revenge for my miserable life. I went back to the front of the shrine. There's an offertory box there, and I'm tempted to throw in some coins. But you normally offer coins to ask for mercy, and I don't entrust my fate to God, so I don't give an offering. I'm gonna unmask him, so until then, Oyashiro is a god. Alright, in that case, I'll show respect. As a declaration of war, I pulled out a 10-yen coin from my pocket. The 10-yen coin I found in the telephone booth changed my life. If it hadn't been there, my life would have ended then. I'm grateful at least for that 10-yen coin. I'm not grateful for the god of the shrine, though. But I haven't forgiven you yet. I never expected anything from you, and I'm here because of my own hard work. Even if you play tricks of fate, or keep rolling a 1 on the die, it won't bother me. With my certain will, I'm gonna get what I want. My grandfather will be praised and become a god because of the research I'll do here. I'll defeat the god of this village and become an existence above even gods. I don't know how she's gonna become a god by killing other people in the village, though. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Or even proving the parasite exists. Neither of these are divine in nature. You're kind of making a weird assumption? Since when did I care about God? Huh? Well, yeah, because my grandfather talked about him. Here. This is the 10-yen coin you gave me before. My debt's paid off now. You just keep clinging to your throne and tormenting people with your trials. Well, I fought my battles to knock you down from there. And so I chucked the 10-yen coin I once borrowed from God into the offertory. For a moment, I couldn't understand what happened. The 10-yen coin was supposed to fall into the offering box, but how can I explain this? That's not what happened. I aimed correctly for certain. Who could miss an offertory box anyway? That's not it. Because the 10-yen coin stopped in midair, as if it got stuck in a spider web. And then it bounced back to me and fell by my feet. It was as though the offertory box had refused the coin. Of course, an offertory box is to respect God, but what I did was challenge him. And that means this is... I jumped because I thought I was the only one here. Anyone would jump when finding there's someone else standing there unexpectedly. How long has she been there? It's like she came out from the shrine. A mysterious girl stands on the other side of the offering box. She's wearing a shrine maiden uniform, so she must be one of the caretakers here. That's what I thought too, but there's something else about her. She's not just one of the caretakers, she's the shrine itself. Because the girl is staring into my eyes, glaring. I smiled back fearlessly. I think she heard my words of challenge to God. She's wearing that expression on her face because of that. The words came out naturally. You're out of this place, aren't you? The girl didn't nod, but I took it as a yes. What a contradictory feeling. I'm rejecting the god of this land, denying its existence, yet I don't doubt this girl is that god. The girl opened her mouth to speak. Strong will reinforces fate. That's right. That's what I say to myself often. I've never said it to anyone or quoted it from anything. So under normal circumstances, I should be surprised to hear this girl say that. But this girl isn't human, so I'm not surprised. I replied to her, God throws the die of fate and has fun with people, depending on what he gets. People have willpower. The stronger the willpower, the less chance of being bound by the result of the die. You see? People can gain a power that's strong enough to fight fate by working to their limits. I understand that very well. An unshakable conviction defeats the die of fate. That's right. That is mankind's revenge against the gods who toy with them by die roll. The hymn of those who would slow the gods' interference and forge their own destiny. Know my divinity, and that I earned this day through effort after enduring all misfortune. Spiteful laughter flowed from my mouth, but the girl's face displayed a strong will of her own. Her expression didn't change a bit. I understand. Very well. No matter how many times we repeat, our fate doesn't change. It was all because of your strong willpower. That's right. A strong will reinforces fate. And that fate so empowered isn't bothered by the result of a die. This means it's a certain future. You, a human, found the truth before us gods who've been living for hundreds of years, I admit. Your existence is close to that of a god. I'm honored. The girl stared at me with her eyes half shut, or more like she was proclaiming something to me while displaying her own strong willpower. Won't be defeated this time. We always thought we couldn't win against you. That was why I surrendered. I abandoned hope and crawled around in the wheel of life. But then I learned the power of belief can cause a miracle that forges your destiny. Are you saying you'll cause a miracle using your will that will defeat the destiny woven by mine? Well, I'm here to tell you, it's easy. Takano's will is trumping is trumping everyone else's will, knowing she's their enemy, so clearly this doesn't work. Done. Easy. Open, closed, shut, it's done. In every single arc, you've tried to survive and you perish. QED. Takano's will trumps multiple people's will. And you only need one person to make a miracle, you're saying. But apparently we need 6 people to make a miracle to counter one person's miracle. Inconsistencies. Ahoy. Logical enough. That's the law of this world. The strong will can make a desired future possible. It won't be defeated by your will. That's fine. So you insist on being an old god. Try it and see if your willpower can defeat mine. God tests people, and yet people aren't allowed to test God, so I'll test you here. See if your willpower can defeat mine. Go on, try. It's clearly a declaration of war. Declaration of war from me to God. This is clearly the beginning of my revenge towards God, who put me through so much misery. And this girl, this god, accepts my challenge directly. I'm not as powerful as you are. I can't do as many things as you can. Even if my willpower is strong as yours, you're more powerful than I am. That's right. I've gained an overwhelming power. You have no idea what I had to go through to gain it. You can't even touch me. I know. I know how powerful you are. Compared to yours, the power my friends and I command is insignificant, but I can choose to not give up. I won't admit my loss. I won't give up until the day when your die rolls 1 and mine rolls a 6. I'll prove the strength of my willpower by not surrendering to you for eternity. Stacking stones on the riverbed allows us to cross the river and appear before you as an equal. And that's when this long battle of fate will come to an end. Fine, come then. We'll see who has the stronger will. Whoever has the stronger conviction will create the future. The future is decided by the stronger conviction that will come to pass. I'll hold my ground. And in my future, my grandfather's great work is praised, and he becomes a god. I'll take revenge on God for testing me by making me go through such misery. Okay, stupid, puny god. I'll show you. I'll drag you from your pedestal. Bring it. Alright. Angry Takano. I see. Well, Takano versus Hanyuu, because Hanyuu can now apparently interact with the physical world. Despite literally never having any evidence of this ability, she has acquired the ability to directly interact with the real world, and also be seen by more people on demand and have conversations. Talk about a useless goddess for a century. Jesus Christ. I did say she would do something, but, well, after having spent literally all of Rika's eternity doing fucking nothing, it seems like she spent too much effort taunting Takano and not enough effort actually trying to stop her. End chapter 4. We will soon be getting to the meat of this story. Quite the long one, and still no tips. Feels weird to not have tips, but I guess we have enough background information, that we don't really need them. So I don't mind that one. After all, we got what was essentially 4 chapters of tips. Or maybe 3 3/4. If you consider that Hanyuu and Takano scene to be the start of the actual story, which is the way I'm perceiving it. Or maybe this next scene is the start. I don't know. But it is getting late. Afraid this is where we're gonna have to wrap things up.